Mommy Brainers, I did not intend for this video to be so late, but so much has happened in the past few days. I have been cleared to start kind of getting set up with college for January, and I am rushing. So that's just been taking over the last few days of my life. But I wanted to take a moment and talk to you about my 4th trimester, because sometimes we forget that the pregnancy journey really does last into the recovery phase, both emotionally and physically, and there's a lot about Titus in the first few weeks that you guys don't know. We actually started filming videos on this channel when he was 10 weeks old, so you'll see if you go back way in the beginning, that's still kind of in that whole 4th trimester period, which tends to encompass the first 12 weeks or so of the postpartum period. So let's see. I was physically doing really well. I did tear a tiny little bit during my birth, but it wasn't something that I even felt happen, or I felt the stitches, but it wasn't like excruciating at all. I would say the most uncomfortable parts of the postpartum period, which is something that happens for everyone but we don't really talk about, is the first poop. Oh my gosh, the first poop is so frightening. Whether it actually ends up hurting or not is just besides the fact, because pooping for the first time after having a baby is so scary, and I remember being so frightened. And once it happened, it wasn't that painful at all, but the whole anticipation of it, it was terrible. So just a heads up to moms who are about to give birth, the first poop, just let it happen. Don't fight it, don't force it, just, if it's gonna happen, just let it happen, and take the stool softeners. Don't be one of those people who says that you don't need them, because trust me, it's for the greater good. So besides that, the contractions after giving birth were also pretty intense, which I was surprised by. For a few days, they would kind of catch me off guard, and I would have to breathe through them. Not anything like actual labor for me, but definitely something that took a little bit of concentration to get through without feeling miserable. Breastfeeding for us was probably our biggest challenge in the first 12 weeks, besides still being homeless. We actually were going to continue to be homeless for the first 6 months of his life. If you do want to hear me talk about the rest of my homelessness experience, I can do that. Please let me know in the comments if you want to hear that story. Otherwise, we were still homeless when I started making videos. So if you go way back there, you'll see that we were still there. But then if you go to like his 7th month update is about when I think I started making videos again after we moved to our house. So it was an interesting time. Breastfeeding, like I said, was probably the most challenging bit for us. He had an undiagnosed tongue tie. Now, I did make a video talking about my breastfeeding journey, and I will link that, here. It was rough, only because I felt like maybe something was wrong with me. Why won't he latch? Is it my nipples? Are they too short? Are my boobs too big? Is it just that I'm not making enough milk and he hates me? And being on a nipple shield was a little bit frightening to me. At first I thought this was the greatest thing ever, but then I realized it was affecting my supply. It wasn't until I saw a lactation consultant and started going to a breastfeeding support group that things turned around completely for me in the breastfeeding department. Things got so amazing. I honestly, if you're breastfeeding, if you are struggling even the smallest bit, go to a breastfeeding support group. Go see an LC. Do not wait. That's the worst thing you can do, is wait and start feeling overwhelmed. And I waited too long. But they were the ones who spotted the tongue tie. And that was kind of, it was sad that he had to get that clipped. But it was also good news, because it meant that it wasn't him. It wasn't me. It was just physically he couldn't latch properly. But within days of getting that clipped, things were much better. Okay, so emotionally was also a struggle, but a lot of that emotional struggle was tied to my breastfeeding experience, especially in the first 6 weeks. We didn't find the tongue tie until he was 4 or 5 weeks, and breastfeeding really started getting more comfortable at about 6 weeks, and by 8 weeks it was in a pretty good place, but I still had this paranoia that he wasn't eating enough. Like, even though he was gaining so much weight, this child gained weight so fast. And I'll pull down his statistics for the first 12 weeks in a bit, but oh my word, this child, you see him, he's massive, and he's always been massive. He started out big, he put on weight fast, and you know, it was all breast milk, and I just didn't believe what I saw. I was almost a little bit crazy. In just that I didn't believe that I was feeding him enough. I just didn't think I was, and I thought he was starving, and then I was just so paranoid. Every single time I needed constant reassurance. I needed to weigh him weekly, which is another reason these support groups really came in handy, because I got to weigh him weekly there, and I got to talk to an LC weekly there, and oh man, I suggest it. If you have any issues at all, I suggest it. That was my big emotional battle, was just kind of trusting my body and me as a parent. I felt like, there was a lot to learn, and doing it all by myself. The sleep department was also rough. I guess I expected him to sleep better than he was, even though in truth, looking back, I know he was actually, fairly giving baby in the fact that he would actually sleep, a little bit. And I kind of jumped the gun on sleep training, so that's something I definitely regret. I kind of jumped the gun on that. But it was not, it was my decision at the time and what I thought was best at the time. And he hasn't had any issues because of that. He's, great and happy. But next time around, I think you learn so much the first time around. And so that's kind of my 4th trimester experience. So let me go grab Ty's stats for his first 3 months of life so I can tell you guys how he compared to perhaps your baby at 1, 2, and 3 months, because oh my gosh, this child. When he was born, he was 9.5 pounds and 21.5 inches long. When he was 1 month old, he was 22 inches long and weighed 11 pounds and 6 ounces. So that's a pretty good jump, but that was kind of in the point where we were struggling a little bit. Just wait, it gets better. So when he was 2 months old, he was 24.5 inches long and 16 pounds. And when he was 3 months old, he was 25.5 inches long and 18 pounds and 7 ounces. He was enormous, and all breast milk, just huge. His calorie requirements are clearly higher than anyone else's in the world. To this day, he's still in the 99.99 percentile. So yeah, just always been a big guy, and I would not have it any other way. I think he's just the sweetest and so heavy, but so cute. Yeah, my life with him has been wonderful. Those first 12 weeks or so are an adjustment, to say the least. They're really challenging, no matter what situation you're in, but if you're a single mom, believe me, I get it. It's a challenge. But it's worth it. That's something that people leave out a lot, that, yeah, it's life-changing and it's challenging, but it's the best challenge and the best life change you're ever going to have in your entire life. So that was kind of my 4th trimester. If you have any questions for me or want to hear about the rest of my time in the shelter, please let me know. And I will look forward to seeing you guys next time. I kind of have a couple of videos in mind, including the induction video that I'm going to make. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.